It's time for
DodgerHeads.
Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeman hits the ball. She is gone. Birthday party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by ESPN LA's Greg Bergman, host of the Blue Review. Both of us donning World Series champions gear for the first time since it all arrived yesterday. Mr. Bergman, great to see you. Great to see the World Series champions patch on your hat. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well, Jeff. Thank you always for having me on here. And yeah, brand new hat. Just got it. Just came in the mail this morning or maybe yesterday. But either way, really happy to have it. That's a new one. And but I can only start in one spot, Jeff, because it's kind of driving me crazy. I can't actually look at the screen. No mustache, no beard, no nothing. It's actually kind of terrifying.
I was in a college town last week, and they asked me if I had a student ID that I wanted to use for a student discount at the Mexican place that I was at. And
yeah, you look about 18, which good for you.
Yeah,
but you look like a little boy.
I am much older than that, it turns out. But it's true. The beard will come back in. There's a reason I typically have a beard, and it's because I look like a small child when I don't have it. So here we are.
This is not on purpose. You think I want to look like? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that's a new hat too, right?
It's a new hat. We got the World Series champions hat. This is the one that they were wearing on the field
I like
afterwards.
So it's always good to, it's got the trophy.
It's got the trophy on the side. We got the patch on the top. So shout out. It's starting to come. The gear is starting to arrive. I got some more gear that's in the mail on its way. So very excited about that. As always, shout out to the people on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter joining us live. We appreciate all of you. Tons to get into tonight. A bunch of news and notes. Shohei Ohtani won an MVP. We're going to talk a new rumor, Byron Buxton. He was not on our outfield list earlier, I guess I could say earlier this week on Sunday. And we're also going to do a deep dive on relief pitching. We've got our trusty coin back. We're going to play the heads or tails game with Greg Bergman, the originator of the heads and tails game, at least on DodgerHeads. So excited to dive into that. Let's jump into some of the let's get a couple super chats here. How about we start that?
Great.
Lee says the Dodgers surpass St. Louis in rings. Shohei surpasses Bonds in MVPs in the next few years. Let's go Dodgers. I don't pay a ton of attention to like franchise World Series and how those stack up, but Shohei passing Bonds sounds good to me.
No, I love that, but I think St. Louis has 11, so they need to get.
So she's saying just win the next 3, and then we're at 12. They're at 11. So
5 in a row. What does that matter? But I think it's an interesting way to start though. Like 3 in a row is absolutely possible. That's not something that just is not. They're going to go into next season as the World Series favorite. You'd have to imagine they're probably going to do some. We're going to talk about all the different people that they're linked to, which I think some of them are linked to them because they want to raise their value from their agents, and some of them they actually should be interested in. But either way, like it's not out of this is the time to do everything that you possibly can to get as many rings as you possibly can. This is like the era of the Dodger. So go all in.
Plus 370, the Dodgers to win the World Series next year. The next closest is the Yankees. It's plus 750. So yeah, heavy favorites. Undisputed Talk asks, what about Willie Castro? Plays outfield, plays infield, switch hitter. It's not my favorite profile. I guess I'll put it there. The offensive profile is underwhelming. And so, yeah,
I don't know.
I understand the versatility, but I think you've kind of got what they have in Kike Hernandez, what they have in Miguel Rojas, I think makes a guy like Willie Castro unnecessary in my book, Greg.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I don't know. He's just another, utility guy. He's not going to be someone that's an everyday player. And also, if you want somebody that, does it in the postseason, I kind of want to go with Kike Tober or Rojas Vember. I don't know. That's one. I just want to kind of throwing it out there, see if it sticks or doesn't anything. But either way, those two guys actually got it done in the playoffs. And obviously Willie Castro has not been around enough to do things like that I can think of. I don't know his history, but I know what Kike can do. I know what Rojas can do. I also don't know if Rojas is even going to be on this team next year, to be honest.
You're not sure if Rojas is back, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, the way I look at it, it's not because I don't want him. Just before it goes anywhere and everybody in the chat freaks out on me because I'm saying something about Miguel Rojas. He's amazing. I'm going to see him tomorrow at Legends Attic in Claremont. So he's going to be there for Oral Hershiser, and Mason and Travis Rogers are going to be there. But he's great, and he was so good for us. But he was not even playing at all until those last two games. He's essentially a utility. He is a utility. He's 36 or 37. Would love to have him back, but I just wonder if there's a space where he's back as a bench coach or something along those lines, because it's just, I don't know. He doesn't have a lot of, I know he wants to play another year, and if he wants to play another year and they want to bring him back, cool. I don't know. I could see it not happening for space issues.
Yeah. I do think there's going to be a roster crunch. So I agree with you for sure on that one. 300 says Brendan Donovan. That is the dude. This guy is interesting to me. Plays for the Cardinals, 2 years of team control left, bats left-handed, which we like. The offensive profile is impressive. 775 OPS last year, which is basically right in line with what he's done the last 3 years. Hits career batting average of 282. So you like that. Not a ton of power, just 40 home runs, but the underlying metrics are really good. Doesn't whiff, doesn't strike out, squares the ball up pretty well. So he's kind of an above average offensive player, I would say. Defensively, again, defensive metrics are imperfect, but he's kind of a utility guy who gives you a little bit when I say kind of like Tommy Edman, that feels funny to say about a guy on the Cardinals, but he's basically Tommy Edman.
See, that's where I was going to go. I was going to say, okay, so I know everybody knows your feelings about Tommy Edman. This is a guy that's
what are my feelings about Tommy Edman, Greg?
You are not the biggest fan of Tommy Edman in this room or in this chat. Oh, be real with the people, Jeff.
I said that he would underwhelm offensively because people had unrealistic expectations of him after the NLCS MVP the year before. And my question to you, Greg, is was I right or was I wrong?
Well, he was hurt most of the year, so by that metric, yes, he came out on fire, and so I mean, he also does a lot of little things. He was not he made a bunch of great plays, despite the one that the ball went.
I said offensive. Yeah. That's all I was talking about.
Okay.
The answer to the question, by the way, is I was right, Greg. I was very right that he was underwhelming offensively.
He's going to get ankle surgery, so he's going to miss like half the year anyway, and he's just going to come back at the halfway through mark, and that's going to be exactly what happens with this team. All the good players will be out until June, and then they'll come back and be ready for October. That's all that's going to matter.
Okay, but I do like Brendan Donovan, a guy who has played some of the outfield, a guy who can play second base for you. Last season, he played left field, he played shortstop, and he played second base, mostly second base. But I think the fact that he can play the outfield, probably not center field, not a super athletic, quick guy.
Right. No, if you can just be the second baseman, those are the spots that you need to fix, right? It's basically it's second base and it's center field, and whoever goes into center field pushes Pages hopefully to right. Can we do that this year? Can we push Pages to right and
we find a center fielder
back to left fielder? If you find a center fielder, you mentioned Byron Buxton. If that we'll get into it later, but if that happens, can we finally move Teo back to left, Pages and right, and just leave it like that and just be happy?
By the way, Tommy Edman is expected back by spring training, is the reports following his ankle surgery. So not expected to impact his buildup. But as we know, I would not be surprised if the Dodgers slow play it through spring training and he misses the first couple of weeks of the season or something like that. So, okay, let's get to some news and notes. The headline here, Shohei Ohtani, unanimous MVP, Greg. We knew he was going to win it. He was like the 1,000-to-1 favorite or I guess minus 1,000 favorite on anywhere that you could bet on this. I was just glad, Greg, that it was unanimous. We didn't have any knuckleheads up there screwing this up. It was an obvious choice, and they all made it.
Yeah, there's no who else was it going to be? Schwarber. I mean, like Schwarber was the one that was closest. Maybe it was going to be Juan Soto, but really there was nobody that even came close to what Shohei Ohtani did. And I don't think for the next few years, as long as Shohei pitches and hits and does them both at a high level, even so, if he's hitting 40, 50 home runs and he's pitching all year and he has like a 2.3 ERA or a 3 ERA, whatever it happens to be, it's not nothing amazing, but also really, really good to do both things. It's his to lose every single year until he stops playing at a high level or he gets injured or something like that. Knock on wood. We never want that to happen. But so from now on, this is the Shohei Ohtani Award. It is his until he decides he wants to give it up at this point. You can't make an argument against it, really.
Right. And it's worth pointing out he won last year without pitching. So he has now won 2 in a row, 1 without pitching. I'm with you. I think he was like a plus 140 to win it coming into last year. It's basically just a bet on if he stays healthy, because if he stays healthy, he's going to win this award every single year. 30 first place votes for Ohtani. We mentioned the second place votes. Schwarber didn't even get all the second place votes. 23 second place votes. He got 5 third place, 1 fourth place, and 1 fifth place vote. Juan Soto had 4 second place votes, and Geraldo Perdomo of the Diamondbacks actually had 3 second place votes. So that was your 2, 3, 4 in order. Real quick on the other side of things, Greg, Aaron Judge beats out Cal Raleigh for MVP. I was not surprised by this. The betting markets were not surprised by this, but I know the narrative had been Cal Raleigh, Cal Raleigh, Cal Raleigh. Were you surprised that Cal Raleigh did end up finishing second? This one closer, by the way, 17-13 first place votes.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I didn't think you could take it away from Judge. It's very in the AL, it's the same as Shohei, just in a different sense, that it's his to lose every single year because of how good he is and how strong he is. He just gets on base at such a high clip and does everything at such a high clip. The narrative could have gotten Raleigh that MVP award because he's a catcher, because he was a switch hitter, because he had all those home runs, and because of what he did on the field. And just because he called big dumper and he had all of the narratives and the storylines behind him. But if you're actually talking about who was the better baseball player, it's Aaron Judge. And that's just going to be every single year in, year out until something happens to Judge, just like it is for Ohtani, in my opinion.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh, 7 more home runs than Aaron Judge, a few more RBIs. Initially, my thought is he plays catcher. It's the most demanding, difficult, you could make a case, important defensive position on the field. He's one of the best in baseball. I know he wasn't necessarily awarded that way when it came to Gold Glove voting this year, but he's one of the best. That's all hard to quantify. And so I think prior to looking at the numbers, I was like, you know what? Judge has won a couple. Cal Raleigh's having an incredible season. The defense, the catching, all that stuff matters. The problem is then you do look at the numbers and you realize that Aaron Judge had an on-base percentage that was 100 points higher than Cal Raleigh. Right. And then you look at his slugging percentage and you realize that Aaron Judge had a slugging percentage that was 100 points higher than Cal Raleigh. His OPS was plus 200 compared to Cal Raleigh. And so I think the gap between them offensively was simply not enough for the defense to make up for. Because, yes, it was 7 more home runs, but 60 is a great number. Judge hit 53. It's not like it was 60-35 plus the catching defense. They were basically a push on offensive numbers as far as counting stats. Raleigh advantage defense, but the gap in these two offensively, I think, was ultimately the reason why Judge was the heavy favorite.
Yeah, and it makes sense. So I see in the chat, Bryant Sanchez says Cal Raleigh did the most with less help. He should have won the MVP. I don't agree with those kind of things. It's about the help. Yes, you are building a team for what you want, but baseball is as much as an individual sport as there really is that's out there. It's just like hidden as a team sport, but it is very much an individual one. He was just so much better. Aaron Judge was that it does. I just don't believe it. If you take all of those Aaron Judge numbers, they don't even make the playoffs. If you take away, same with Cal Raleigh, but at the same time, I just don't. He was as big of a need for that team as Cal Raleigh was for them. Just as the same way that Shohei was just as big of a need for the Dodgers as Schwarber or Juan Soto was.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out, by the way, that Aaron Judge grades out really well as a defender. Yes, it's in right field, much less important position, but it's not like he's, Kyle Schwarber out there or something like that. So Jedi Engineer says, put Judge on the Mariners. They don't make the playoffs. Yankees would still make the playoffs with Cal on the roster, but my vote for Cal doesn't count. Again, I think this was close. I think 17-13 is pretty much the perfect encapsulation of where this should have been as far as first place votes go. But again, the headline here, Ohtani unanimous on the NL side. Aaron Judge edges out Cal Raleigh on the American League side. Some more news and notes for the Dodgers, some roster notes. Tony Gonsolin elects free agency after clearing waivers. We knew that the Dodgers had placed him on waivers. If anybody had claimed him, they would have had to pay him the final year of arbitration, which would have required a raise over the $5.4 million. So not a surprise he cleared waivers, given that the injury he's coming off of and how much they would have to pay. So he will now be a free agent. And then I suppose a slightly more surprising news, if you haven't been paying close attention, we told you on this show that this was likely going to happen. Ben Rortvedt was waived by the Dodgers, claimed by the Reds. Were you surprised, Greg, to see that Rortvedt is already off of the roster just a few weeks after the World Series?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought they were going to try and keep him around, especially after what he did for this team. But at the same time, I mean, no, like he's going to get a job somewhere else. He's in Cincinnati, right? So he can find some time in Cincinnati. And I think what I saw was he was either the best man or a groomsman for Gavin Lux. So there's a friendship there as well. But either way, I'm just sad to see Benny Biceps go, as Joe Davis called him. I think he did a great job behind the plate. And now I know we've had this conversation before in the past, but it was the pitchers calling the games themselves, and he was just kind of catching. But at the same time, he did steal some strikes. He did a great job behind the plate. We don't get to where we went to. We don't win a World Series without the help of Ben Rortvedt, especially when Will Smith went down and the way that Dalton Rushing was kind of playing. So big ups to Ben Rortvedt. Sad to see him go, but hopefully he's better off in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was our guy Steven Nelson, by the way, who tweeted it out. It's pretty neat this happened now. Gavin Lux and Molly's wedding is coming up. Rortvedt will be an usher. He said Ben would have been a groomsman, but the wedding parties and even numbers, if you know, you know. So there you go. The hard part for Ben was just the numbers never panned out on a team that Dalton Rushing is definitely sticking around. If you're the third catcher who doesn't have options, it's just simply a wrap for you. So that was the prediction. It was they're not going to keep him over Dalton Rushing. Dalton Rushing's not going to get sent down to AAA, and therefore the numbers game didn't work in his favor. So salute for your service, Ben Rortvedt. Enjoy Cincinnati. He and Gavin Lux, by the way, both high school baseball players in Wisconsin together. So that's the backstory, I guess, on how the two of them know each other.
Good, quick research on your part. Well done.
Yeah, what can I say? The internet's a helpful tool. Don't Care 187 says, disgrace that Yoshi didn't get a single first place vote. This in NL Cy Young voting. I'll be honest. I love Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He was third. He deserved to be third. I think it would have been crazy if anybody voted for him first or second. There wasn't a single number that I think he was best in. Maybe opponent OPS, I think, but like he was second or third in most of the important stats, if not worse.
See, I think he's going to win a Cy Young at some point. I mean, Paul Skeens it's really about whether Paul Skeens stays healthy or not, for whether he's going to lose that. But either way, I mean, he has a chance to, and he should win the Cy Young at some point. But you know what? He's done that nobody else has done. He decided to just win back-to-back World Series rings and pitch almost 3 innings of relief the day after that he pitched 90 some pitches. So yeah, the guy has the 2 rings instead of the Cy Young. I think he's going to be just fine.
Speaking of the World Series and the playoff run, MLB apparently has something called the legendary moment of the year. They decided that Shohei Ohtani's 3 home run, 10 strikeout performance in the NLCS was the 2025 winner of the legendary moment of the year. I'm curious, Greg, I did a list of my top 21 moments from the 2025 World Cup postseason. It was supposed to be 10, and then there were just too many. So I ended up with 21 on the list. Anthony was not happy because this whole postseason, these 21 moments, this 3 home run, 10 strikeout game, I agreed with everyone. It's the greatest game ever played. I had it 8th on my list.
8th.
Think about all the things that happened in the World Series.
What did you, I'm just, before we get to 7 through 2, what was number 1?
Rojas home run.
Okay, that was a massive moment and it meant so much. But I mean, if you're going off of the greatest game or the greatest play,
just World Series moments.
Great World Series
moments ranked 1 through 21.
So yeah, it was top of the ninth.
Sorry, playoff moments from the Dodgers World Series run.
Okay, for everything that it meant, and it would have been over had he not hit that home run because Shohei didn't hit one in the next at bat. Then sure, I can see that.
You tell me which of these where you would place Ohtani having the greatest game ever. Number 1, Rojas home run. You're good with that.
I am.
Number 2, I have Yamamoto, just the entire Game 7 performance from Yamamoto.
Okay.
Still good? Still having that ahead of Ohtani's greatest game ever?
Jeez. Yeah, because it's Game 7. I can't really go against. Yeah, I can't go against Game 7.
Number 3, Will Smith, go-ahead home run, 11th
inning. I was wondering where it was going to be in 1, 2, or 3, so sure.
Okay, number 4, I had Freddie Freeman's walk-off home run in the 18th inning of Game 3.
I think I'd have Shohei's higher.
Okay. The next 3 I had were the double play to end Game 6.
Which was amazing. I think it's Shohei higher.
Andy Paz's catch. And then the one I think that made Anthony the most mad was I had Will Klein's 4 shutout innings in Game 3 ahead of
Shohei higher. Yeah, okay. I think I would go Shohei higher than a bunch of those. They all meant so much, and you obviously don't win any of these games without that. And I'll give you this of how you put it below Freddie Freeman. Now that I'm thinking about it, not that I would, was that you didn't win that specific game because of that, and Freddie won that specific game that he did all of those things. And was it that game? Yeah, it was that game. So yeah, so he did all those things there. Yeah.
1 through 7 are all in the World Series. That would be the argument. These were moments that basically, in every single one of those cases, you could say essentially won them a baseball game in the World Series. Ohtani's game was in the NLCS. That would be the argument.
Yeah, in the NLCS. Yeah, that's why that's 8. I get that. But where would you put the World Series moment that Shohei had where he was on base 9 times? And
that was number 9 on my list.
That was number 9 on your list? Okay.
Which that one, people are like, how can Will Klein pitching 4 innings in a game where Ohtani reaches 9 times? I'm like, you know what? Fair. I probably overvalued Will Klein's moment.
I mean, I think that's where I think there's some that are overvalued over others. I think the 3 is, very much so. I would go with the Shohei higher than a lot of those. I'm still going above Freddie, even though Freddie's was a walk-off in 18 innings.
Do you have him 4th then? Behind Rojas, Yamamoto, and Smith.
It's not something we'll probably ever see again unless Shohei does it again and does it at a higher level. That's pretty 3 home runs and 10 strikeouts and 6 shutout innings. That's amazing. It has to be higher than all that.
It's crazy. Some other news and notes. I know some people like the 6-7 that you got going on there. Brandon Gomes saying that Roki Sasaki, quote, absolutely going back to the rotation next year. I think this seemed to be the expected move. Are you okay with this?
Yeah, no, I think that's what's to be expected. And I think he's still 23 unless he already turned 24. But either way, he's still so young. He has all of it. I loved what Roki did. Now take that, because they did pitch him multiple innings in that, because you kind of kept him built up. He wasn't just a closer. It's very easy to put him back in there. They're saying he did turn on the day of the parade. He turned 24. Awesome. So he's 24 now. Yeah, he can go out there. Let him pitch. And by the way, you're going to need all of these starting pitchers. Yeah. You have like 8 to 10 starting pitchers anyway, but you're going to need them because guys are going to go on the IL. They're going to take some time off. They're going to move on. It's just, you need as many as you possibly can have. And Roki is going to be a big part of all of that, I think.
I appreciate AI, by the way. I Googled Roki Sasaki's birthday as you asked that. It said Roki Sasaki's birthday is November 3rd, 2001. He turned 23 years old on November 3rd, 2024, and celebrated another birthday on November 3rd, 2025. In case you were wondering, he celebrated this birthday on both in 2024 and 2025. AI just wanted to make that clear for all of us, Greg. So
thank you, AI, for the way
we appreciate that. You mentioned the starters: Snell, Yamamoto, Ohtani, and Glasnow, kind of the 4 studs. And then you've got Roki, Emmett Sheehan, Justin Robleski, River Ryan, Gavin Stone, potentially Ben Kasparius, guys like Landon Knack, potentially in the mix as well. There was a quote that Robleski and Kasparius, they kind of said, hey, they'll probably be in the starting pitching mix, but they might make more sense as relievers. So, but depending on Gavin Stone, River Ryan's health, those 2 guys were absolute studs. So,
Gavin Stone was fantastic. River Ryan looked really good. Both those guys are super high-end prospects that would probably be like a number 3 on most teams in all of Major League Baseball, and they're like 7, 8 on this team. they have an embarrassment of riches right now. So then they're going to need every single one of those pitchers, and they're going to do basically the same thing this year.
Yep.
They're going to use them up all throughout the season and then have them in the pen when it comes to playoff time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The last news and notes, more of a rumor here. Byron Buxton, the athletics reporter for the Minnesota Twins, blanking on his name right now, so I apologize. But he is reporting that Byron Buxton, who basically said, I am not waiving my no trade clause in any situation last year at the deadline, as the Twins shipped literally everybody out, has apparently changed his stance slightly and said he is willing to consider trades if it is to a contender and if the Twins truly are going to continue tearing it down. Joe Ryan is rumored to be on the move potentially from the Twins. Buxton is 31 years old. He has 3 years and $45 million left on his deal. Greg, you were not on the show. We did a huge breakdown of all of the outfield options that could exist for the Dodgers. I'll be honest, if Byron Buxton is available, he's number one on my list as far as all of the outfielders that I would be interested in. 878 OPS last year with 35 home runs, plays center field, still an elite defender. I know you might hear 31-year-old center fielder and like, how does that work? How about this? 100th percentile sprint speed. Literally the fastest man in Major League Baseball last year was Byron Buxton. The only concern, and it's a totally fair and valid one, I'm not overlooking this or ignoring this, is health. This guy almost never plays baseball games. The last 2 seasons are the first time since 2017 he has gone over 100 played games. Were 2024 and 2025. He played 102 and 126. If not for health, this is a slam dunk, but it's 3 years and $45 million. The cost is very small. He can play center field. He's an elite hitter and he's an elite fielder. This is like the offensive / defensive version of Tyler Glasnow. And if I'm the Dodgers, I'm taking my chances.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't. I'm just looking at it also because I don't know his actual numbers. But yeah, the 102, 126, that's a positive sign for me. So it's also his WAR, which I use Baseball Reference. I think you use Fangraphs, but 3.6 last year for in 2024, 4.9 in 2025. Much better than anything you were getting here. I think those are good numbers to me. He does strike out a decent amount, but so does everybody in this league. So yeah, I would 35 homers. I really like from that spot. I think for $15 million a year, you have to go out and get that. If it's available, that's super cheap. So absolutely go get that in the sense of what else is going out there. I think you gave 1 year 17 to Michael Conforto. That's your guy over there. And so
World Series champion Michael Conforto to you, Greg.
He is. That did not play in the postseason. So he was 17. So yeah, this is a slam dunk if that's a thing to go there.
Yeah, I look at some of the other guys we talked about.
Looking for the cheap.
Yeah. Kyle Tucker, I'm not interested in the $400 million deal. We've talked about that. And after that, it's like, do you trade for Steven Kwan? Good defender, doesn't play center field, probably could, but doesn't play center field, and the bat is league average at best. You look at a guy like Jarren Duran. I like Jarren Duran off the field, personality fit may be a concern. And then you go up and down the list of the other guys in that group, and it feels like you have to kind of plug your nose at some point. Again, with Buxton, it's the same thing. It's games played. But from a culture perspective, from a defense perspective, from a offense perspective, all those are pluses. The only downsides are health and the fact that he's not a left-handed hitter. You'd kind of love to find somebody who can hit left-handed. But man, if you could put him in center, move Pages to right, move Teo to left, to me, that feels like, again, Teo's still going to be a black hole over in left field, but at least you've got 2 basically elite defenders in the outfield.
Yeah, I would love that move for Buxton. And by the way, and still, the deal itself just sells me on it altogether. There's really not much risk with a 3-year, $45 million deal. That's 15 a year. And also, if he does happen to get hurt, you're not really losing that much money because he is a guy that typically gets hurt. And you're going to have guys from the minor league system that are going to eventually be ready. I know they put, I'm sure you talked about it, but Ryan Ward on the 40-man roster, which they got to figure out what they're going to do with him, despite his massive power, not a lot of defense. Zaire Hope's going to be ready pretty soon. Josue DePaulo will be ready probably within those 3 years. So if you get 1 to 2 good years out of him, then and those guys are now ready after that, that makes a lot of sense to me on the cheap.
Yeah. And again, he was the fastest player in Major League Baseball last season. So the athleticism is not going to fall off a cliff anytime soon. I see El Shiva saying that Kwan plays left field, right field, and center field. He played 1 inning of center field in 2025 and 0 innings in right field. He hasn't played in right field since 2022. He has 31 total innings in his career in center field. So I suppose if we want to go on technicalities, he has played center field and he has played right field.
In his career, he did
Not
play there
since 2022. So there you go.
I mean, that's
right.
that's kind of the same deal as Bo Bichette. He had played some second base, and then they just threw him in there, and he did a good job. But they like him as a shortstop. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, time to play a game. We're doing off-season preview. If you missed it, we did outfielders last time we were on the show Tuesday night. I think I said Sunday earlier. Tuesday, me and Anthony and Moreno did outfielders. Today, myself and Greg Bergman are doing relief pitchers. We've got a bunch of guys on this list. Fabian Ardaya is reporting the Dodgers are looking to add at least one high-leverage right-handed bullpen arm. The good news for them is that unlike outfield, where it's kind of like not a ton of great options, I would say if you're looking for back end of the bullpen right-handed arms, there are a number of names on this list. Whether you like them, whether you're willing to pay for them is another question. But Edwin Diaz, Devin Williams, Robert Suarez, Ryan Helsley, Pete Fairbanks, Raciel Iglesias, and just for fun, Kenley Jansen, all right-handed relief pitchers that are available via free agency. So the way we are going to play this game is I am not going to cheat, contrary to what Matthew Moreno wants you to believe. I've got a 50-cent piece that has a head side, it has a tail side, and I will flip it. If it lands on heads, then whichever player we are talking about, we'll start with Edwin Diaz. If it lands on heads, Greg Bergman is going to make the case, whether he wants to or not, for the player. If it lands on tails, he is going to make the case against the player, whether he likes it or not. I will do the opposite, and whichever person has the for argument will go first. At the end, we can then kind of reveal our hand a little bit and say, and by the way, there's this other stat that tells you why I was originally wrong. So we tracking on the rules here, Greg? We feel good about this?
Tracking. Can I just say right up front that I want no relief pitchers this offseason? Can I just throw that out there?
You just did. You just did. So it's out there. It's been spoken into the void. There you go. Greg wants none of them, but we're going to play the game anyways.
Yeah, I know.
First flip, tails. Good news for you, Greg. You are arguing against Edwin Diaz. By the way, perfect. Edwin Diaz, I'm going to give you the projections from MLB Trade Rumors and The Athletic just so we have context. Both very similar. Trade Rumors has Diaz getting a 4-year, $82 million contract. The Athletic has 4 years and $84 million for the 31-year-old reliever. He opted out of the final 2 years plus a team option of his deal with the Mets. However, he is the one player on this list that did receive a qualifying offer. So if the Dodgers were to sign Edwin Diaz, that would be a big deal. Jeff Passan did an article where he said perfect offseason move for every team. This was the move he picked for the Dodgers, was to go sign Edwin Diaz. I also just have to shout this out because I thought it was funny. Arash Markazi, formerly of ESPN LA, I think, or at least ESPNLA.com, maybe something different.
Well, it was a very, very long time ago. Arash Markazi, Sports Tribune down in San Diego or something.
I loved he totally got me with the headline, which was Dodgers emerge as favorites for Edwin Diaz. I clicked it. He basically just said they have the best odds on betting market. So quite the article there from Arash Markazi. We appreciate that. Here's the argument for Edwin Diaz. He did get the click, so congrats. 1.63 ERA for Edwin Diaz last year, a 0.87 whip. He's 99th percentile, basically best in the league at whiff rate, strikeout rate, and expected ERA. 94th percentile at limiting barrels. Even 2024 was a down year, but the underlying stuff's still elite. 2024, 100th percentile strikeout rate, 98th whiff rate, 98th expected ERA, 97th hard hit rate. Also worth pointing out, 11 and a third career postseason innings, Greg, and a 2.38 ERA career. I know the number is big, but if you're making the case for Edwin Diaz, the case you would make is this. He is very simply one of the 2 or 3 best relief pitchers in all of Major League Baseball and has been so for a few years. Sometimes you got to pay up, and maybe this is it.
Yeah. So, I mean, all those things are absolutely true. And if there was any of these guys that you were going to be willing to pay for, maybe it probably would be Edwin Diaz. But the fact of the matter, it is a very, very high price tag. You do have to give up because they give the qualifying offer. You still have to give up the draft picks, right? You have to give the draft pick. You have to, all those things that come with it is all things that this team uses very, very heavily to build their farm system. They use their draft picks extremely well and pick the right guys. They have smart guys in that space. It's also, that's a high price reliever. You know who else was a really good, one of the best in all of baseball, high priced reliever that was amazing. The guy's name was Tanner Scott last year. We got that guy. How do we feel about Tanner Scott this year? Bullpens and relievers. Okay, that's a whole nother conversation. The bullpens and relievers are extremely volatile. Just because he had a 1.683 ERA does not mean that that's what's going to happen this next year.
Yeah.
If you have a chance to not spend on a reliever, you should absolutely not spend on a reliever. I think that Andrew Friedman figured that out this last year with Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates to a smaller extent.
Yeah. If I was going to make the case against Edwin Diaz, I don't like paying $20 million a year for a guy who's over the age of 31. This is pretty funny. Dating back to 2018, look at how his ERA goes up and down every single year. So 2018, 1.96, then 5.59, then 1.75, then 3.45, then 1.3, then 3.5, then 1.63. As I said, if you look at the last 3 years, the underlying metrics are consistently like elite. So that would be the case for and against Edwin Diaz. I don't think either of us are making the argument, Greg, that Edwin Diaz isn't one of the 3 or 4 best relievers in Major League Baseball. The question for you, it sounds like, is not, is he good? It's, do I ever want to spend this kind of money on a relief pitcher? And to you, it sounds like the answer is no.
The answer is no, but also you mentioned exactly what I was talking about. The volatility. Blake Trinan was very much the same way. Even in Oakland, he was great one year, then bad the next year. And while he's been with the Dodgers, unless he was hurt, great and then bad, great and then bad. Relievers are that way. And you pointed out exactly 3-1, 5-1, 3-1, 3-1. Next year, guess what? That one's going to be in the 3 range. And if all that pattern sticks up, next year it's going to go back into the 3-4s for that ERA. It's just how relievers work. And if we pay that money again, he's going to be compared to guys like Tanner Scott. But by the way, I think Tanner Scott has a phenomenal year this year. Putting that out there.
Don't do it because Tanner Scott sucked so bad. But by the way, Tanner Scott's going to be awesome this year. I just want to make sure I'm tracking here.
So if you think about it, it totally makes sense based off everything you said. The 3-1, 3-1, 5-1, like it goes up and down. They go up and down every single year. You go pay for Edwin Diaz, he's going to have a high ERA this year. You're going to be disappointed in this.
I understand that's how it has worked. My point is the underlying metrics.
It happens all the time.
What's that?
With every reliever. It happens with a lot of relievers. It's not just Edwin Diaz. It was Blake Trinan. It's Tanner Scott right now. It happens all the time. I'm not saying it's absolutely going to happen with Edwin Diaz, but his pattern is exactly that. Blake Trinan's pattern was exactly that. I don't see why we want to spend that much money on a guy and also to your point, over 30 years old, going to be 32. Like it just doesn't make sense. It's going to be expensive and for a lot of years.
It's worth pointing out that the 2 quote unquote down years he has had in the last 5 were 3.4 and 3.5 ERA years. So we're not talking about like a 7 ERA and a catastrophic year. So
sure. And then the other part of it, like for your metrics, his strikeout per 9 is fantastic. It's like for a career, his career is over 14. So he strikes out a bunch of dudes. His strikeout to walk really, really high. I think those metrics all look good for Diaz, to take the other side for a second, but I just can't say why you would want to give up that much money and lose a draft pick.
I think the last thing I'll say on Diaz is, and there's a lot of good players here. If I'm being perfectly honest, Edwin Diaz is the hardest for me to come up with an argument against that isn't just, that's a lot of money for a 31-year-old reliever. Like there really isn't a ton of like statistical evidence that you can point to that says it's a bad idea to go get Edwin Diaz. If you were going to your point, reliever volatility is a real thing. But if you were going to bet on a reliever not being volatile the next couple of years, you would definitely place that bet on Edwin Diaz because he has been elite for the last few years, even if the ERA ticked up to 3.5 in one of those 3 years. So the rest of these guys, though, you're going to see there's a little bit more of like, you're not predicting volatility to start. You're actually saying, man, there's a couple things we've seen over the last couple of years we need to be worried about. So number 2 on this list is Devin Williams. Fascinating projections here. He had a terrible back end of the year with the New York Yankees after he was traded, which is probably why there is such a wide variety of projections. Trade Rumors is projecting 4 years and $68 million for Devin Williams. The Athletic is projecting 1 year and $18 million for Devin Williams. Some people wondering, I imagine, does he have to go sign a prove-it deal, high number? But, like, we don't want to sign you long-term until we know. Fabian Ardaya has reported that he has sources saying that Devin Williams is a, quote, clear target for the Dodgers already. He almost came to the Dodgers at the deadline last year. At his press conference with the Yankees, he said, I kind of thought I would be going to LA. Thankfully, he did not. He ended up with a 4.8 ERA on the season after struggling like to a 7 ERA with the Yankees. So let's flip the coin. Heads, you've got to make the case for Devin Williams. Tails, you make the case against him.
This is a fun one because I actually can go both ways very easily.
Tails, your lucky day. You get to make another argument against a relief pitcher. So
I actually was looking forward to going to Garrett, but okay.
I will argue for Devin Williams. 4.8 ERA last year. Talking of relief pitching volatility, let me give you his ERA by year, Greg, starting in 2020. 0.33 in 2020. That's a real number. Obviously, shortened season. 2.5, 1.9, 1.5, 1.2. Those were his ERAs prior to 4.79 last year. Last year, the underlying stuff on Devin Williams, even though the ultimate ERA was bad, still elite. 99th percentile whiff rate, 97th percentile strikeout rate, 97th percentile chase rate. He struggled on walks, but that kind of is a thing the Dodgers don't really seem to care a ton about based on who they've targeted. He struggled with barrels a little bit, but walks is a thing that's been a constant theme. I also love betting. If I'm going to bet on one of these guys who is kind of up there in age, I want to bet on the guy that doesn't like live and die with his fastball, which is Devin Williams. He relies on the changeup, obviously, whatever you want to call that pitch. 4 shutout innings for the Yankees in the postseason this past year as well. I'll be honest, like I like Devin Williams. I like the fact that he might be able to be had for a discount. I like the profile. I like the underlying metrics, and I like no qualifying offer on top of it. So the argument for Devin Williams to me, Greg, is actually one of the easier ones for me to make.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why, but I also can see when my lasting images of Devin Williams are of him giving up home runs, him giving up just massive hits and in big spots too. I think I can also go and look at his postseason record and how he did. So in 2023 with Milwaukee, he had a 27 ERA where he had 3 walks. It was only in 0.2 innings, but he gave up 2 runs in those. And 2024 with Milwaukee in the wild card, 21.6 in 2 games, where he in an inning and 2/3 gave up 4 runs on 3 hits, and that was 1 run. Improving in how many runs you gave up.
That's what I'm saying.
Doubled that number in just one more inning.
That's a good trend.
It went down. Okay, yes, but it happened to be over just an extra inning, so it dropped that a little bit. Either way, he was a little bit better in the wild card with the Yankees and in the DS with the Yankees, but I've seen him too many times blow games in spectacular fashion. Also, all those numbers when it comes to ERA and everything, I don't know. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. You're better at getting them. How many did he give up that were on base? How many blown saves did he have? How many, because that's ERA doesn't count when you give up runs for somebody else. I'd have to see what that looks like, but I could imagine that he gave up a few of those as well. Devin Williams, while he's great and there's a reason that he's going to be on a prove-it deal because of his arm doesn't look the same. He has been injured. I just don't see Devin Williams being the same guy that he was when he was, the all-star. He was an all-star and a Cy Young candidate a couple of years ago. And in the MVP conversation, that's just not who he is at this point. And to your point, he's over 30. So at that, you're talking about another guy that's just is a little bit of a gas can right now. He has that pitch, the airbender, that doesn't seem to be really fooling as many people as it once did.
Yeah, I mean, still 13 strikeouts per 9 this past year. But that number is coming down. So that would be the one other concerning thing. Like, it's if you could get this guy, I mean, I know they project like 1 for 18 or 4 for 68. If you could get him for like 2 years at, even if it's like $40 million, I'm interested in that with Devin Williams, so that it's not the 4-year deal. And I'm fine paying the high AAV for a player like this with no qualifying offer, because I think there's a real chance that you could tap back into the guy that was there just 12 months ago.
Yeah, you can. And look, if it's for that, now that we're past our arguments, I can have the point of like, yeah, if you get Devin Williams on a 1-year deal, sure, I can see how that you can work that out. Man, maybe you give him 18 million and defer like 11 of it, because that's what they love to do. So, but also look at what his WAR kind of looks like. It's been dropping the last couple of years. Even in this year, he was below average. He was a negative 0.3. And that's just not something that is really all that appealing in a reliever, especially. That's showing that there's more things to it, that despite what the numbers across the board say, he's not getting it done. And that anybody else would have been better. That somebody in the minors would have been better than him in those for last year. So that's a bad sign all the way around, and a reason that you're getting a prove it deal.
Yeah. Next on this list, let's go to the San Diego Padres, Robert Suarez, 34-year-old right-handed pitcher. He's the oldest guy on this list, projected at 3 years from both sites. Trade rumors, $48 million. The Athletic, $54 million. So $16 to $18 million a year for Suarez on a 3-year deal. Time to flip the coin. Let's see if we can make Greg make the argument for one of these guys.
You're making me make an argument for a Padre?
There you go, baby. Heads it is, Greg. Robert Suarez, make the case.
You made me go, but okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Do the Moreno thing. Say it's all rigged and that, it's all cheating.
I know I'm not. I actually wanted to be on the pro side for Devin Williams in the last one, and I wasn't. I've made myself clear about how I feel about it. Robert Suarez is an interesting case because he is older. Now you're talking about a guy that's in the later years of his life. So this also can be, he's going to be 30. I think he's 34 right now.
Can we just pause for a second? You said a 35-year-old is in the later years of his life.
I'm 42. So it's,
You're on your way out. Later years of your life. Mid-30s is later years of your life.
We're talking about a baseball player, not just a regular person like you and me. A baseball player or just anybody in sports that's over the age of 32 is past their prime by definition. They're not in that space. Can we say later years of his career? Can we say career instead of life? Like the later years of his life just makes it seem like he's like 94 years old. I'm trying to make the argument for him, Jeff. Let me get to where I'm going to go to. Excuse me, but his numbers his peripherals. I think are one of the best of all of them. Actually, his ERA is a low ERA. It's right. It's in the 2s, and it's in the 2s every single year. And despite that, his FIP stays in that kind of space too. He does have a high strikeout to walk. He gets a lot of guys out. He's a guy that if you can do I'd be much more interested in a 1-year deal at a lower or a little bit of higher annual AAV for him, because I've seen what he can do and what he did for that Padres team. He's really changed what they did in the back end of that bullpen and made it so that they didn't mind losing Josh Hader, because he could just come in and do that. In the playoffs, he also has a really good ERA. He has given up some home runs in the playoffs that it cost him, but his overall ERA is 2.45. He's played a lot of postseason baseball and has about 12 games. In those games, he has, for the most part, looked really good. There's been 1 or 2 that didn't go his way, but he has had most of them that are good. He has playoff experience where a lot of these other guys don't, and a lot of playoff experience. I want guys that have been there before, know what that feels like.
I didn't
like it. I felt dirty talking about
that. Feels dirty. Against him,
a little dirty.
Age 35 season upcoming. He's halfway into the grave, according to Greg Bergman, and Greg was making the case for the man. The velocity is down over 0.5 mile an hour, 0.6 miles an hour this past season. That's terrifying to me for a 35-year-old. 16th percentile average exit velocity, only 39th percentile whiff rate, 31st percentile hard hit rate. Basically, other than fastball velocity, none of his metrics are elite anymore. His second most common pitch thrown this year was a changeup, and that changeup got absolutely destroyed on the season. So to me, I see the 2.9 ERA over 4 seasons since coming over from Japan, but man, he played in the NPB, to be clear. Robert Suarez is not from Japan, in case you weren't sure about that. But
that Japanese Suarez is common.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm out on Robert Suarez. 3 years and 16 to 18 million. I would, to me, and I'm going to kind of tip my hand here. There is a clear line of demarcation after Devin Williams, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I will pay up for elite. And I think with Diaz, you're getting that. I think with Devin Williams, it's very possible you're getting that. The rest of these guys, I would be very terrified. I think both of these guys failed, but I'm going to put them in terms that make sense. I think the first two guys are like a Tanner Scott level pitcher at their best. Like, they are the guys that you thought you were getting when you signed Tanner Scott. The rest of these guys are in the Kirby Yates camp, to me. And so I think there's a gap between them. So that's where I have Suarez ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is, I had to go for the positive. If I want to be real, there's no sense in me that would want Robert Suarez on this team. If Devin Williams was known for giving up a jack in a big spot, Robert Suarez is a guy that's known for giving up a jack in a big spot. He gives up home runs and he gives them up in bunches. When he gets hit, he gets hit hard. And he is now much older, 35 years old. Or he's 34 right now, but he's going to be in that age range. So yeah, I don't think giving money to an older reliever that just tries to throw gas and to your point, try to mix it up with a changeup that gets shelled. It doesn't make any sense for this team. I could see him being, somebody that just stays with the Padres until they kind of let him go. That is not somebody that I would be interested at all.
Also gave up a walk-off home run to Will Smith this year and was the guy who was ejected for throwing it, Shohei Ohtani.
You just can't imagine. You want the guys that got Shohei Ohtani out like Tanner Scott, not the guys that were trying to hit Shohei Ohtani.
I can't believe you made the argument for Robert Suarez. You should be ashamed of yourself.
You're a bad guy. You're a bad guy. You know that? You're a bad guy.
I didn't make the argument for him. I'm just saying. Ryan Helsley, next up, entering his age 31 season, 4.5 ERA this past year, thanks in part to a 7.2 ERA after getting traded to the Mets. So was a guy the Dodgers were rumored to be in on potentially at the trade deadline, goes to the Mets, was a disaster. Heads, Greg makes the case for him. Tails, he makes it against. Heads, it is for your boy Ryan Helsley, Mr. Bergman.
That's totally fine. He was actually the guy at the trade deadline that I was really, really wanting. At the trade deadline, it's like, if there's anybody out there that I would want besides, I'm blanking on the name, went to Philadelphia.
Joan Duran.
Really, Joan Duran. If you couldn't get if you couldn't get Duran, Helsley was the guy I wanted. I thought his stuff absolutely played. It could have been better. I thought it would have gotten better when he got here, and he was just having a little bit of a bad first half. He didn't show it. Went over with the Mets, but I think a lot of guys go to the Mets and just don't look as good as what they actually are, because there's something to do with where you're at. I think Ryan Helsley has a lot still left in him. He is a guy that you can probably get a little bit more on the cheap. He was huge for St. Louis the year before he got traded. He was absolutely the guy I wanted, and I think if you bring him over here, still 30 years old, about to be 31, which keeps him right in that range of guys that you would pay for, with typically a low ERA and high velocity and his high strikeout rate, a pretty good strikeout to walk rate. He seems like a guy that is, to your point, the point of demarcation, he would be at the high point of the just below. Who are we talking about before that I'm blanking on? Yeah,
he's kind of
the highest point of the team.
Just to be clear, so 30 turning 31, Greg willing to pay for 35, basically dead. So we're just getting categories for ages here for my guy Greg Bergman. So we appreciate that.
In baseball, for the most part, if they're not somebody that's been on your team and knows how to do it, like a Clayton Kershaw or Max Muncy, guys that are already here and you know what they can do in a postseason. No, yes, at that point, I've seen Robert Suarez give up too many home runs in big spots.
Yeah,
I'm okay. Ryan Helsley, younger, can come over here and still show that he can get a high strikeout rate.
Trade rumors, by the way, 2 years, 24 million. The Athletic 1 year, 16 million. Kind of the two numbers, which that makes sense. Like, is it a 1 year high AAV? Is it 2 years at a lower AAV? But he gets himself an extra 8 to 10 guaranteed. 3 things on my against for Ryan Helsley: 5.63 ERA in his career in the postseason. No, thank you. I don't love that he failed his first time leaving St. Louis and heading to a big market. If he failed in New York on the Mets, on a team with some pressure, what does that mean for coming to LA? That scares me. And the last piece is the underlying stuff was good, but not great for Helsley. Now, if I could take my anti-hat off and put the positive one on for a second, all of his underlying stuff was very elite up through 2024. 2025 was the first year it went from like 95 percentile type stuff to like 80 percentile stuff. So the question is, was it just a fluke? Was it the Mets? Was it the midseason trade that threw him off? He's a human being. Like, his whole life was uprooted. He had been in St. Louis his whole career. I don't know, but I think he's one of the more interesting ones where you can use the numbers to tell either story here, Greg.
Yeah, very much so. And that's why I started off with, that was the guy that I would want. And I don't believe what he did in New York is what he actually is. I understand it's big market, but that's still, Mets and Yankees are two totally different things. The guys that went to New York this past season, all like as relievers, they all just fell apart. They were all terrible. Everybody that went into New York. So I think it has to do with what either, the ballparks, you got that short right porch in Yankee Stadium, Citi Field is not, I wouldn't call it a pitcher's park. I think it's a little bit different if you come to Dodger Stadium, and then he would be a much better pitcher here than he would be anywhere else. Of the second tier, he's still going. This is not, I'm taking off my hat of being in the pro. He is at the top of that at a low A or a high AAV 1 year or low AAV in 2 years. I think that is a worth it deal to see what you can give you. There's not a lot of risk in that.
Okay, next up on the list, Pete Fairbanks was on Trade Rumors, was the only one that gave us a projection. He was not a free agent when The Athletic did their piece, but Trade Rumors projecting a 2-year, $18 million deal for Fairbanks. He had a $13 million option declined. He was available for trade. Nobody apparently could come up with a deal that the Rays were willing to move on. He's a 31-year-old right-handed pitcher. Ken Rosenthal has said that the Dodgers are among the expected suitors. Fabian Ardaya said, quote, makes sense as a speculative target, had a 2.83 ERA last season with a 1.04 walks and hits per inning pitched. Heads, Greg makes the case for. Tails against. Heads, Pete Fairbanks.
Heads. So,
just pure coincidence, by the way, Greg, that all of these tier 2 guys you're making the case for and all of the tier 1 guys you made the case against. Okay, I just want the record to show.
That's fine. I don't want any of them, so it's fine by me. But Pete Fairbanks, again, he's more like along the lines of the Ryan Helsley of guys that I would try to trust with that high one year high AAV, 2 year low AAV type guys. He is what he's also guys that come over from Tampa Bay tend to be guys that do really well in the Dodgers organization, whether it's because Andrew Friedman knows what's going on over in Tampa Bay or whatever it happens to be because he used to work there. I think that's been too long now that doesn't exist anymore, but they run their organizations very similarly. And the fact that guys that come over, Evan Phillips is one of the best relievers that we have. Too bad he was hurt this year, but he's been pretty great for this team. Came over from Tampa Bay. When you come from there, we just had Blake Snell and Tyler Glasnow come over from Tampa Bay. I have a higher thought of guys that come from Tampa Bay to the Dodgers than anywhere else. So I kind of trust that. I think Ben Rortvedt, by the way, came over from Tampa Bay as well. So trading with them has always been successful, or bringing guys over from them has always been successful. So I'm not even going to look at all his numbers and try to give you all of his back end stats and all of those kind of things, because I don't think they matter. If Andrew Friedman sees something in a former Ray in Pete Fairbanks, then you absolutely go ahead and go do it.
Does it scare you that the Rays looked at a 1 year, $13 million deal and said, we're good?
Yeah, probably, but they probably did. I don't remember how the whole Evan Phillips thing came around, but they've done that with a lot of other guys. They've done that with that. They did it with Max Muncy. They did it with Chris Taylor. They did it with Kike Hernandez. They did it with Justin Turner. Like, those are all guys that were given up on somewhere else and were extremely impactful with the Dodgers.
Phillips, by the way, threw like 3 innings at the major league level and 3 innings at the minor league level. So he was kind of in between DFA stops when he was with the Rays. The argument against, first and foremost, is what I just said. Like, what do the Rays know that I don't know about Pete Fairbanks? That would scare me a little bit. The underlying metrics have not been elite. This is the red flag. The underlying metrics on Fairbanks have not been elite since 2023. And you might say, well, what was different in 2023? Only his fastball was 2 miles an hour faster than it is today. So the fastball falls off a cliff after 2023. All of the metrics fall off with it. Back-to-back underwhelming years since then. The fastball's gone from 99 to 97 and change. That's what worries me. Now, the results have still been good. I mentioned it, 2.8 ERA, 1.04 whip. To me, it's just like, how much better is Pete Fairbanks than the guy in the bullpen that he's going to be replacing? I'm not sure there's a huge difference between those two. And so if I'm going to sign somebody, if I'm going to take up a 40-man roster spot with a free agent, I would just aim higher than Pete Fairbanks would be my last note here. So two more guys on this list. Rossiel, do you have a number on him, on Fairbanks?
No, I have a couple of things on Fairbanks. Also, someone keeps saying in the chat that he has Raynaud's disease, and that is a condition where blood vessels in the fingers and toes constrict in response to cold or stress, causing them to turn white, then blue. The affected areas become cold and numb, but will tingle or throb as blood flows returns after warming up. It just seems like you have things going wrong in your hands. That's going to be a problem as a reliever. And also, if you look at his numbers as well, that was something that you're talking about. His strikeout per nine since that 2023 went, actually you can go back further, from 2022, 14.3, 13.5, 8.7, 8.8. His FIP goes the opposite, 0.86, 2.7, 3.5, 3.63. Everything is going in the wrong directions as the years go on, and that's a negative.
Yeah. Okay, two more here. Rossiel Iglesias is next on this list. Both sites project 2 years and either $26 or $24 million for him. So short deal, 13-ish, $12 to $13 million. Francis Romero is reporting the Dodgers are among the teams interested in the 35-year-old right-hander. 35. Did you hear that number, Greg? 35.
Oh,
so
I'm just trying to wait to hear what side I take before I actually make my point there.
Hopefully some of this money can go to the casket that he's going to be laying in very quickly, I guess, at the age of 35.
Why are you taking my joke? Stop it.
Tails, your lucky day. You get to make the case against Rossiel Iglesias. Here's the argument for him. Here's his ERA since 2020. 2.7, 2.5, 2.5, 2.7, 1.9, 3.2. The underlying stuff, encouraging. 90th percentile chase rate, 88th percentile whiff rate, 84th percentile expected ERA, 88th percentile hard hit. He's in this second tier. It's a $12 to $13 million deal because he's 35, but the performance has remained pretty good and pretty consistent. The metrics are there. I would probably have him ahead of Pete Fairbanks. I would have him ahead of Suarez. He's probably on par with Helsley for me as far as the players in this last tier, though, Greg.
Yeah, if 35 for Robert Suarez was old, he's going to be 36 in January. He's pretty much dead at this point. You're going to pay for somebody that's been bounced around. He did well. He was with the Angels for a little while. Like, guy is on bad teams doing well. He was with Atlanta the last couple of years. Atlanta's been bad these last couple of years, so he's doing it on bad teams. I don't typically look at those guys that are playing well on bad teams as relievers as somebody like, oh, that's gonna work on a good team. It just doesn't typically work that way. I don't really have much on Rossiel Iglesias that I think is going to be good. 36 years old, get me. I'm out. I don't. That's not somebody that I'm looking at right now.
Fastball velocity was down below 95 for the first time since 2015. This past year
he's getting old.
His worst season since 2020 by just about any metric. 6.75 career ERA as well. Last one on the list, Kenley Jansen. Not on trade rumors, top 50 free agents available, but The Athletic, he made the list. 1 year, $10 million is the projection for the 38-year-old right-handed pitcher. He left LA in 2021, 2.59 ERA since leaving, Greg. He had a 2.59 last season, has been a 3.2 ERA since leaving, has never been higher than 3.6 over that stretch. Time to flip the coin. Heads, make the case for Dodgers legend, maybe Hall of Famer, Kenley Jansen.
What was the deal that they said it was going to be?
1 year, $10 million.
1 year, $10 million for a guy that is a legend as a Dodger. Bring him back. Let him finish out his career as a Dodger. He can retire as a Dodger, go into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger, and let him finish out his career here. To your point, he has that low ERA. He can still get guys out. There's times where it gets a little bit shady and shaky, but he still knows how to do it at a high level. He's going to be one of the best relievers of all time. He's right up there in that top 5 range. So at the end of the day, let him finish out his career as a Dodger. It just makes too much sense. And for $10 million, that is, you can probably, because it's a hometown discount and his former team discount, I bet you can get that for lower too. because what are you going to do? You're going to go do this for the Royals? No. If you're going to do it somewhere cheap, come to the Dodgers and make that happen for 1 year, and then retire as a Dodger. It's the right way to do things.
The 2.6 ERA looks great. There is not a single metric that lies underneath that number that justifies it. He had not a single metric that matters in the above the 35th percentile last year. His average exit velocity was the 3rd percentile last year for Major League Baseball. So, with all due respect to Kenley Jansen, thank you for your service, sir. My argument for was going to be, by the way, 65 and a third career postseason innings, 2.2 ERA for Kenley Jansen. So he knows how to get the big outs. I just don't think he's that like. Is Kenley Jansen better than Ben Kasparius next year in the bullpen? Is he better than Will Klein? Is he better than Edgardo Enriquez? I don't know if the answer is yes to any of those questions.
No, I don't know if they are either. And I don't think there's a reason that they didn't try to go out and get him. He actually has gone on podcasts and say, oh, I'd love to go back to the Dodgers. Guess who didn't go back to the Dodgers? Kenley Jansen. Yeah. So no, it's his time has passed. I still want him to retire as a Dodger and go into the Hall of Fame as a Dodger. That was all real, but we don't need him on this team, especially at 38, 39 years old. It's too old.
Okay. So before we get to a few questions here, Greg, you would take, if I asked you to rank the options in front of you, if I'm hearing you right, sign none of these guys is option number 1 for you.
Okay.
Is that right? Like you would prefer, and so you would just not address the bullpen at all, or you would just throw like 3 darts at some minor league, like non-roster invitees and see what happens.
If you wanted to go get me, Ryan Helsley at a low AV, like 1 year, $15 million, like cool, like that's fine. But I don't need any reliever at a high end. My first choice is don't do anything in the bullpen unless it's on a small level on a 1 year deal, just to kind of see what they got. But otherwise, yes, that's my answer. Absolutely not on bullpen because it's just too volatile.
Okay, so top choices do nothing. Second choice is sign Ryan Helsley for somewhere in the 1 for 16 to 2 for 24 range.
Sure, in the lower end.
Third on this was Fairbanks third for you?
No, I'd probably go Edwin Diaz on the higher level, because if you can get him, you have to give up a lot to get that. I think that's important, but at the same time, that's something to take into consideration. But he's the best out of all of them in there. If you got Edwin Diaz, you'd be thinking, okay, this is a dude that can actually get guys out at a high click. So
yeah.
For
me, it would be Devin Williams would be my first choice. Again, they have him projected 4 for 68 on one site and 1 for 18 on the other. If I can get Devin Williams for like 2 for 40, then I'm interested in Devin Williams would be number 1. Number 2 would be Edwin Diaz. I know the price is high. I know the draft picks suck, but like he's a real difference maker, and there just aren't very many of those guys out there. So those would be my top 2 options. If I can't get either of those guys, I might stand pat. I just don't think any of these other guys, maybe you could talk me into Helsley, but none of these other guys to me feel like guarantees to be upgrades over like sizable upgrades over the middle back end of the bullpen. Because keep in mind, if you give these guys $20 million over 2 years, it's going to be a lot harder to bench them or to cut them than if it's like a non-roster invitee who ends up struggling. So I think I would go Devin Williams, my top choice, Edwin Diaz, my number 2 choice, and then probably Stan Pat would be my third choice there.
Yeah, if they do nothing, they kind of found something that they can do in the postseason with starters. The starters seem to make that work, and with the amount of starters that they're going to have for this year at a high level, the Wroblewskis and Roki going into the pen and a bunch of other guys. Then you have Gavin Stone and River Ryan and all those other dudes that are going to come out of the pen, which Emmett Sheehan, like they have somebody people that they can go to in the postseason that are not these just the relievers that are just massively volatile.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got 5 super chats we're going to get to, and then we're going to call it a night. I am actually hopping off. I'm going to be getting on a show with Jim Allen, who, if you don't know who Jim Allen is, you can find him on social media. He is an English-speaking guy who covers the NPB in Japan, and he's going to be doing a full breakdown with me of Murakami. That will be posting tomorrow morning on Friday. So stay tuned. Check that out. But we've got some super chats first. Phil says, Jeff, Conforto at $5 million for 1 year, plus he lives with you in the offseason. or Buxton at his contract, rushing, and 2 top-end prospects in the trade. If those were my choices, Byron Buxton would be my choice. I would have to know what we mean when we say 2 other top-end prospects, but I am interested in the framework of a trade that is Dalton rushing, let's say Jackson Ferris, the team's top pitching prospect, and one other sort of piece. You could talk me into that for Byron Buxton.
I think you can talk me into. I want no part of Conforto, although I think he may have a decent year next year because he had such a bad one this year. But Buxton, I would much rather have. You can move on from rushing is kind of blocked as a secondary guy behind Will Smith. Yeah, maybe he'll hit 3 times a week, the same way that happened this last year, especially early on in the season. But who knows what he's going to become? He's still prospects, and everything in our prospects. I'd rather have the guy that you can trust in Buxton.
Yeah, absolutely. David says, what is the best way to get rid of Blake Treinen? The good news is he has 1 more year on his contract, and if he's as terrible as he was in the postseason, with 1 year left, they will simply get rid of him. So
up, down, up, down, up, down. He's poised to have that up here then.
Freedom asks, will Brusdar Graterol be ready? Can be a reliever or a closer. I think the expectation is that, yes, he will be ready for the beginning of next season. There was hope that he was going to make it back at the end of this past season. Obviously, it didn't happen. But unless I'm forgetting something, I don't remember there being like a massive setback. I just think he wasn't maybe progressing as quickly as they were hoping for.
I will believe that Brusdar Graterol is pitching again when he is actually on the mound for more than a week and not getting injured again. So I need to see it before I can do it. And by the way, never a closer. He doesn't have strikeout stuff to be a closer.
By the way, Brusdar Graterol. Okay. He said, my rehab hasn't been easy. I've changed my mindset to 2026. Thanks for always being attentive. Love you, Dodger fans. That was from October from Brusdar Graterol. So he's looking ahead to 2026. Freedom also says Kenley Jansen is a stud. Hell yes. Let's go on Kenley Jansen. Apologies for not knowing how to read this name on the super chat, but we appreciate you. We want 3 of Buxton, Kwan, Williams, Iglesias, and Fairbanks. I can't imagine they go get 2 outfielders. So Buxton or Kwan, and then 2 of so give me your options here. Kwan or Buxton? You're Buxton, right?
Yeah, I'm Buxton for sure.
And assuming Buxton would probably cost, let's say, 50% more than Steven Kwan.
Everybody that are prospects, I think are just kind of you're in a window. Yeah. You want to win as many as you can right now. So yeah, I would go after Buxton. Then in those 3, I'd go Williams and I guess Fairbanks.
Yeah. I think Suarez and Kenley Jansen are last on the list for me. Then I think Iglesias, then Fairbanks, then Helsley would be how I would rank. And then Williams and Diaz would be 1 and 2 for me on that list. So, all right, folks, that's going to do it for us here on Dodger Heads presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. Greg, anything to plug going on over at ESPN LA? You mentioned Miguel Rojas potentially on the show. It sounds like coming up.
Yeah, so he's actually going to be on. He's going to be at Legends Attic in Claremont tomorrow from 12 to 3:30 p.m. So go out. It's free to the public. Go and hang out there. See Miguel Rojas, World Series, Jeff's number 1 moment of the postseason.
Maybe the number 1. Hard to argue it's not the number 1 moment in Dodgers history.
I think that's arguable, but it is a very big moment. I'll also be there to hang out, and just so if you want to come hang out and just see Miguel Rojas, come out to Legends Attic. Also, please pay attention to the Blue Review. We'll do things every once in a while throughout the off season, and then we'll be back next year in full-time capacity with Jeff Spiegel coming and joining us on either a Monday or a Friday or whatever day is available for him.
It's true. Loved hanging out with you and Marcus and Parker. They do a great job over there. You can find Greg at corporate_Greg on social media. Again, thanks to everyone for hopping in. Check out the Jim Allen interview that's going to be posting. Like I said, tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Friday, it'll be posting on Friday. But it's going to be good. He's going to give us a full breakdown of Murakami, kind of touch on some of his weaknesses, whether or not he's a fit in LA. Can he play defense? Will he strike out that much? So it's going to be great stuff. As for us, thank you, everybody, again, for joining us, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Enjoy the rest of your night. As always, go Dodgers. And yes, still chance.
Go Blue.